This episode of Deep Dive Unknown could be
our best yet.
So, for decades, this whole topic was pretty fringe, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Definitely not front page news. More like blurry photos and whispered stories.
Right. But now, it's everywhere. Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, UAPs.
Yeah, governments are actually talking about it now. Cautiously, maybe, but they're acknowledging things are up there.
Things that seem to operate, well, outside our known physics, it seems.
Exactly. Stretching the boundaries.
And you're here listening because it's fascinating, right?
Oh.
Who isn't intrigued?
Mm-hmm.
So our goal today, our mission, if you like, is to cut through some of that noise.
Yeah. Try and unpack what we actually know, or at least what's being reported.
Based on the information we've gathered, looking at the tech, the secrecy.
All of it.
So the big question remains, what are these things being seen in our skies? Let's dive in.
It's interesting to think about how we even got to this point. You know, it's not like they just showed up yesterday.
No, definitely not. There's a history here.
Right. The story or the modern public awareness really kicks off mid-20th century. You have to think back to 1947.
Kenneth Arnold.
Kenneth Arnold, yeah. His sighting of those flying discs near Mount Rainier, that really lit the fuse, didn't it, for public fascination?
It absolutely did. And then, wow, just weeks later. Roswell. The initial military report, they actually said flying saucer recovered.
They did. And then almost immediately.
Weather balloon. That's quite a switch. So, okay, that initial government reaction, that quick change, what does that tell us? Suggests they were concerned.
Oh, definitely. It points to some level of initial alarm, wouldn't you say? A perceived threat, maybe?
Whatever it was, it triggered investigations.
It did. You had Project Sign, then Project Grudge.
And finally, the big one, Project Blue Book. Lasted for years.
Decades, yeah. And what's really telling is, even after all that time, all those investigations...
Hundreds of sightings remained unexplained.
That's it.
Officially unexplained.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about, vague lights in the sky.
No, these were often detailed reports from credible people.
Highly credible. Seasoned pilots, astronauts looking down from orbit, military personnel trained to identify threats.
People whose lives depend on knowing what's up there.
Right. Yet for so long, their accounts were, largely dismissed, brushed aside.
Which really makes this recent shift, this current discussion, so much more compelling.
It does, because the 21st century brought something new to the table.
The videos. The leaked military video.
Precisely. Suddenly you had data, visual evidence. Much harder to just dismiss out of hand.
And these videos showed objects doing things that, shouldn't be possible for conventional aircraft.
Right. We're talking hypersonic speeds, apparently without a sonic boom.
And those instantaneous right-angle turns, the G-forces involved would be immense.
Surmountable for any known craft or pilot. And then there's the disappearing act.
Vanishing from advanced radar systems. Just gone.
So when you look at these modern encounters, what really jumps out at you?
For me, it's how effortless it all looks. And the propulsion, or lack thereof. Take the Nimitz Tic Tac incident back in 2004. You've got this object, smooth, no wings, no exhaust plume.
No visible means of staying aloft or moving.
Exactly. And then the reported descent 80,000 feet in, less than a second?
The numbers are staggering. It suggests maybe they interact with gravity or inertia differently.
It feels less like flying through the air and more like moving through space itself, somehow manipulating it.
That's a good way to put it. And the pilot's own words, they really underscore how strange it is.
Things like, not from this world, defying known physics.
Beyond anything we have, these aren't throwaway comments. These are professionals trying to describe something truly anomalous.
You think about the gimbal video, too, or Go Fast. Objects maneuvering easily in hurricane-force winds.
Sideways, even, without slowing down. It just doesn't make aerodynamic sense.
So if you stack this up against our own best tech...
It implies a scientific understanding, or maybe a physics, that's way beyond us currently.
Which forces the question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If they aren't ours, and they aren't behaving like anything we know, what are they? Where do they come from?
And that takes us right into the theories about their origin. Each one is pretty mind-bending, really.
Okay, so the first one, the classic one, is the extraterrestrial hypothesis.
Right. ET craft from other star systems, maybe from civilizations much older, much more advanced than us.
It seems wild,
Right.
but it would explain the seemingly impossible technology.
It offers one explanation, yes. But then there's the black-budget human tech idea.
This one's almost more unsettling in a way.
How so?
The idea that we built this, that governments or maybe private companies develop technology so advanced, it looks alien.
Right. Kept completely secret, of course. You know, think about stealth technology back in the day.
Yeah, the B-2 bomber or the F-117, those would have seemed utterly alien before they were revealed.
Exactly. So is it possible we've had another leap like that, just much, much bigger, kept under wraps?
It's a possibility you have to consider. Then things get even more speculative.
Like time travel.
Yeah, the idea that these are humans, but from our future. Coming back to observe, maybe interact.
It's definitely out there as a theory. And the fourth one mentioned in the sources.
Interdimensional entities.
Yeah.
Beings from another reality, another plane of existence.
Manifesting somehow in our space-time. Again, highly speculative.
But the key point that the sources seem to agree on is what these things aren't.
Definitely. The consensus in these discussions, based on the evidence being presented, is that we're not looking at weather balloons or misidentified conventional aircraft anymore.
No. The flight characteristics rule that out for these specific, well-documented cases.
Which brings us to people starting to speak out, pushing for answers from within the system.
Like David Grush.
Yeah.
His testimony in 2023, under oath, that was a big moment.
A very big moment. A former intelligence official stating point blank that the U.S. government has recovered non-human craft.
And not just recovered, but is actively trying to reverse engineer them.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's fascinating is how that echoes much earlier claims.
You mean Bob Lazar?
Bob Lazar, yeah. Decades ago, he made his assertions about working near Area 51.
On alien propulsion systems, he said. He talked about Element 115.
He did. Described it as a potential power source. And back then, Element 115 was purely theoretical.
But now it's on the periodic table. Moscovium.
Right. Now, that doesn't automatically validate everything Lazar said, of course, but it's... Well, it's an interesting data point, isn't it, as a layer?
It does. And beyond testimony, there's talk of physical evidence, these alleged metamaterials.
Recovered from crash sites, supposedly. Materials with unusual isotopic ratios.
Ratios not typically found naturally on Earth is the claim.
Correct. So if any of this is true, the craft, the reverse engineering, the materials...
Where is it happening? How could something so monumental be kept secret for so long?
And that leads us into the murky world of private corporations and black budgets.
Right. The idea that maybe government secrecy isn't just inside government buildings anymore?
Exactly. It's plausible, maybe even likely, that a lot of this work, if it's happening, has been farmed out, moved into the private sector.
To major aerospace contractors.
Right.
Companies with huge resources, their own security.
And potentially less direct oversight from, say, Congress or the public?
Well, can maybe explain black budgets a bit more and special access programs?
Sure. So a black budget is basically a hidden government budget. Money allocated for classified projects, things deemed too sensitive for public knowledge, usually for national security reasons.
Okay.
And special access programs, or SAPs, are like the really secret projects within those black budgets. Highly compartmentalized. Access is incredibly restricted, strictly need to know.
So only a very small number of people might even know a particular SAP exists, let alone what it's doing.
Precisely. You could have elected officials, even high-ranking military, completely unaware of certain programs.
This sounds like the whole shadow government idea people talk about.
It feeds into that, yeah. If you needed to hide something like recovered alien tech or incredibly advanced human tech,
hiding it inside layers of SAPs, funded by black budgets, possibly managed by private contractors. That would be the way to do it, wouldn't it?
It seems like the most logical structure for maintaining that level of secrecy over decades. It's unsettling, but potentially effective.
Which really brings us to the biggest question of all.
Right.
Why? Why the intense, enduring secrecy?
Our sources point towards one primary motivator, really.
Power.
Power. Think about what this kind of technology could represent.
Anti-gravity. If you could control gravity.
Or zero-point energy, tapping energy from the vacuum of space itself.
That would change everything. And dependence on fossil fuels overnight.
Revolutionize transportation, global economics, maybe even level the playing field in some ways. It's world-altering potential.
But there's always a flip side, isn't there?
Always. What happens if that same technology gets weaponized?
The potential for control or destruction is terrifying. Imagine one nation or even one group having that kind of advantage.
It creates an enormous imbalance of power. So from a national security perspective, even a purely strategic one.
You can almost understand the impulse to keep it secret, to control it before someone else does, or maybe just to control it, period.
So the secrecy might not just be about protecting us from something, like panic. It might be more about maintaining control over something incredibly powerful.
Control over the technology, control over the narrative, control over the future, perhaps.
Which leaves you, the listener, with a lot to think about, doesn't it?
Yeah, if technology like this exists, whether it's ours or someone else's, and it's being hidden.
What does that mean about our current understanding, our science?
Our place in the universe. What fundamental assumptions might just be wrong?
It's a profound thought.
It really is. So we've reached a point where governments are acknowledging UAPs exist. That's a huge step.
But the answers are still scarce, very carefully worded.
We definitely have to recognize the efforts of those pushing for more transparency, the whistleblowers, the pilots, the scientists.
Absolutely. They're taking risks to bring this conversation forward.
So the key takeaways from this deep dive seem clear. UAPs are real. They seem to operate beyond our current tech, and there's a lot of information still being held back.
Undeniably.
What do you think is going on? It's a question that echoes, really.
It certainly stays with you.
Join us next time as we dig into another fascinating, maybe hidden corner of our world.
Until then.
Stay curious and keep watching the skies.
Thanks as always for watching today, and if you like our videos, please don't forget to click on the like button and comment in the comments section, and if you already haven't done so, why not subscribe? It is completely free.